Hey, welcome along to another episode of Behind the Bar podcast. Now this one's a bit of a special one. So this one is with the girls from Maya's Law. And what Maya's Law is doing is closing the gap in child safeguarding. So it's Dan takes the reins on this one. He interviews them and it's a really, really good cause. Obviously, they'll explain every single thing about it. Please show them some love and support there'll be some links below this or within the podcast show notes. Click the links, follow them through, give any charitable donations you can to them, and let's make this happen. Enjoy the show.
So today we are joined in the studio by the team behind Maya's Law, who are here to raise awareness for a very important cause. Before we begin, could you explain who you are and what your relation was to Maya and also to the campaign?
Yeah, I'm Gemma Chappell. I'm Maya's great auntie. So Maya's dad is my nephew. And his dad is my brother. It's quite confusing, but a lot of people get confused with that when it is. So I'm essentially the founder of Maya's Law.
Yeah. I'm Kerry. I'm your sister. And also Rachel, who's Gemma's sister. I'm Rachel's best friend. So I knew Maya, met her quite a lot, spent time with her, and obviously couldn't help but be involved when Gemma set Maya's Law up. And I just do whatever I can to help.
And she's got an official title now.
Oh, an official title.
Oh, I have.
She has.
I'm events coordinator.
Yes.
To make her feel important.
Yeah.
Better than reserve. Second reserve. So before we discuss the events themselves, could you tell us a little bit about Maya, who she was, and what you want people to most understand about her as a person?
Yeah, I mean, Maya was 2 years old when she was taken from us, which obviously we'll talk about, but people forget that Maya was a little person, and it's important that we let people know. It's her birthday today. She would have been 6 years old today, so we would have been having parties, wouldn't we? Because we have parties in the family. Yeah. And she was just such a delight, wasn't she?
She was cheeky, full of life.
She was a daddy's girl, very much a daddy's girl, and she would always steal your food off your plate. There's like videos and pictures around of, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but she just like would come and steal your food. She loved her food, and she was just such a delight. Everybody says she lit up the room, didn't she? She would go in, her smile, and she just loved being with the kids. Any parties were at, she was off with the kids, wasn't she? So she was just a gorgeous little girl, full of life.
So could you walk us through the timeline leading to what happened, including whether any concerns were raised or whether they were responded to, or what the first sort of inclinations were that something perhaps wasn't right?
Yeah, so Maya's mum and dad, James and Dana, they were together for quite a long time before they actually had Maya. So they were childhood sweethearts. They were young when they got together. They ended up having Maya, and 2 weeks before lockdown, that's when she was born. There was no concerns through the relationship for Maya's health or anything like that. However, because it was lockdown, you didn't have the same service that you would get off services such as your healthcare, going out and checking on the kids and stuff like that. So it was a very weird time in the world, wasn't it, with COVID?
Yeah, a lot of things were moved to phone calls instead of appointments, face-to-face, things like that.
And, you know, so some of us in the family got to meet Maya just before lockdown. I didn't get to meet until a few months in because my job... very, like I say, it was a weird world, wasn't it, at that time, and I was very cautious of being around my family, and it was a scary time, so I didn't want to be next to them. So it was a couple of months before I actually got to give her a cuddle. So they split up, the relationship was ended, and Dana ended up getting with a guy from Sunderland that nobody knew. He was a random guy. She didn't know. They'd met through a mutual friend in a pub, and within 9 weeks, he ended up abusing her and killing her in them 9 weeks. So because he didn't have any, what this is, because he didn't have any empathy towards her because he wasn't hers, he would have taken his anger out on her, and essentially that's what he did. So she was 2 years old when he did this, and they believe that he abused her potentially over the whole time, but it could be identified as around about 6 weeks. in that 9 weeks. Because obviously the check bruising and injuries and the timeline on them and that.
It was a very short timeline as well.
It was a short time.
Although Dana and James had split up, Maya spent most of her time with James. You know, obviously, and there was no concerns around that because James was an amazing dad. He loved her, idolised her. And you could see that when they were together.
Yeah.
So for most of that time, Maya was with James and in James's custody, really, and in his care mainly.
She did live with James most of the time because Dana went off and had some issues, and that happens, you know. And James stood up, and rightly so. He should do for his child. So you're right.
It was quite a dramatic change in Maya's sort of circumstances, even since
so that, in that 9 weeks when she was with this guy, bruising started to happen, and she started to come home and to James, and James was raising the concerns about these bruises and where's it's coming from. And these were little bruises that could be explained away from, like, you know, a 2-year-old bumping into the table and the chairs and falling over and stuff like that. So it could be explained away from that. So when Dana would have her and then she would come back to James, he would raise them concerns and she would say, it's from falling over, it's from bumping into tables. But they continued. So he continued to raise them concerns. And this is when she thought, I need to do something drastic. And she did. She was meant to go to nursery. Took her for a day. Came out of nursery and wouldn't take her back. And essentially text James to say, you're not getting Maya back. I'm keeping her and I want this much money a week. And that's what it came down to for them too. Money. And they essentially used what I say, Maya as a handbag for their own gain. So she wanted money, he wanted money. He was in a massive amount of drug debt to drug dealers that were after him, that were threatening his life, threatening the property. Yeah. And a 2-year-old in a property that's getting, you know, threatened to cause damage to that property and his life. A 2-year-old can't protect themselves from that. And this is when she took her away. Now, obviously, we know to Peterlee from Concert area because that's where Maya is from. But we can't take away from the community in Peterlee because they were absolutely fantastic after it all happened. And they've really come together. And even now, they support us through all of our campaign.
Yeah, there's a lot of support from that
area.
Yeah,
definitely. So she took her away, said to James, you weren't getting her back. And we didn't know where she was at this point. So we had no way of finding out where she was to go and get her. Yeah. So because she'd come back with these bruisings, James has then contacted services. Initially, he contacted social services and they said, it's nothing to do with us, essentially, which is crazy, isn't it? Because everybody would look at social services and think, they're the ones to go to. That's what it's for.
And I think people who don't have an involvement professionally or with social services have this idea of them being some sort of amazing superhero service. You go to them with anything and they'll, of course, they'll look into it. It's their job, it's their job, but actually the reality is very different.
And when you listen to a professional, you believe them, don't you? So James believed them. James was like, all right, okay, they're telling me to go to the police. So he rang the police and they put a Sarah's law in, and rightly so. And through a Sarah's and Claire's law, there's 2 different ones. So Sarah's law's for sexual offending. After young Sarah was taken and murdered many, many years ago, and Claire's laws for adult intimate partner relationships. So they put the Sarah's law in, and the police had rang up Dana, so that actually had her on the phone and said, essentially, is that person living with you? She lied to the police, as we know afterwards, again, and said, no, he's not there. And they asked her what her date of birth was, what his date of birth was and what his new address was. And she said, I don't know. And then essentially they've put the phone down, boot closed, nothing else done. At that point, services had the opportunity to physically see Maya. We didn't, because we didn't know where she was. James was beside himself, didn't know how to get hold of his child, essentially, and she wasn't. She wasn't returning her. So they had that opportunity, and they didn't take that opportunity. And then subsequently from that, Maya's life's been taken. So the timeline, essentially, to break it down, is that they've split up.
Yeah.
They've gone the separate ways. James has had Maya, and she's then thought, well, I'm going to keep Maya because I want money. And she used Maya to keep this guy in because he was going out doing things he shouldn't have been.
I must say, as familiar as I have been with the campaign, I never realised it was over 9 weeks. I think that's so scary,
9
like
weeks.
how quick that's happened.
And I think as well, like time and time again, we say, stop leaving your child with strangers. And we're not just talking about men, we're talking about women as well. You know, James, there was gender biased with our case because they didn't believe James, they didn't take his concerns that he was raising serious enough because they believed the mother, and they believed the mother's always right. That's wrong. Because we know time and time again that mothers put these children in these positions. So, you know, we say time and time again, stop leaving your children with people that you've just met.
Yeah, new partners.
Even months. Even months is
it's
not
too
I mean,
soon.
this guy was showering her, wasn't he? Like, he's a stranger and he was showering a little girl and changing his nappy, changing her nappy.
And being left, obviously, on the day,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that Maya was taken. He was looking after her while our mum went off to work, which is why they had the opportunity, to, obviously, to be alone together. And
he would send her pictures and videos of the abuse, so she knew about it. And he would make excuses up like she's choking, so I've had to grab her face, and this has all come out in the court afterwards. So she just essentially used Maya, didn't she, to leave her in the house with him to make him stay in, so he wouldn't go off and do things that she didn't want him to do. And
which obviously added to his frustrations. You know, he didn't want to necessarily be there all the time. He maybe didn't want to have this child, and he couldn't go out and do things maybe he would be choosing to do, which obviously added to that frustration that he felt, which ultimately led to the incidents. But that, the most important message is don't leave your children with people you've just met, new partners, things like that, you know.
even months is like, it's too soon.
Because these
Like,
children
you
are so vulnerable, especially, you know, Maya was only 2, her speech was just developing, she wouldn't have had the words, you know, to express what was happening to her. And unfortunately, our mum, who should have kept her safe, who should have protected her, was laughing at videos of things that were happening to Maya, and was just not, unfortunately, not fulfilling that role of protection.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an understanding of their mindset, after, obviously we found this after, but to give you an understanding of what their mindset was around Maya and how little empathy they had towards her child, and also a 2-year-old from his perspective. He, after doing what he did so horrendously to Maya and taking her life, he then phoned 999, came off that phone call to 999, and within 3 seconds rang DWP for where his money was. So that's his mindset. Her mindset was, he texted her to say, you need to come home, Maya's collapsed. Her text message reply was, I'm sorry, I love you, don't leave us. Not, how's Maya? What do you mean my child's collapsed? No concern for her. So that gives you an understanding of their mindset towards Maya. No empathy at all.
And I think, you know, the most harrowing thing that came out in the court case, obviously, that I'd sort of read was that I think he'd sent a video of Maya backing away from him.
Into a cupboard.
She was trying to hide in the Kallax cupboards, trying to squeeze herself in, backing away, visibly scared. And he's laughing, videoing it, and he sent that to her mum, and she
just laughed
at that's a funny video, which I think...
And this is where it comes back to, like, where police had that opportunity to go down and physically see her. So where you saying, Kerry rightly so, saying she was 2 years old, she was only just developing her speech, so she couldn't speak, but actually children still show signs of uncomfortableness. So had they gone down, she was nipping the areas that was hurting. So they might have seen that and been able to say something. She was trying to back away from him. She was scared of him. So his stepdad went down on the morning of her death and seen that. she didn't want to be near him. And he said she was. It was almost like she was petrified of him, and she wanted to go with his stepdad, who was a stranger to her. Now a 2-year-old doesn't want to go with strangers, and Maya was very much the same, wasn't she? Even though she was outgoing, she knew who she was safe with, and she knew who she would go to. You know, if James is in the room, that was it. Nobody got a look in. It was always Daddy. I want Daddy. So, you know, she knew who she would go to, who she was comfortable with. So she wouldn't have gone with a random stranger like his stepdad.
Without reason.
Like you say, it's you can't trying to understand the logic of the people in that situation. There isn't any rationale to it.
And unfortunately, it's a pattern that's repeated. Yeah. You know, women, or not just women, but statistically, it is often women, you know, get into new relationships with men or people that they don't really know, and put a lot of trust into these people, leaving their children with them, whether it's out of convenience, you know, they're just there, so it's easy to leave them, and also the withdrawing. So Maya was withdrawn from James's family, Gemma's family, so they didn't have eyes on. She was withdrawn from nursery because nursery, you know, the workers in nursery have a lot of safeguarding training. Yeah. You know, they would notice the signs, they would notice the marks, they might notice changes in behaviour and things. So she was withdrawn from that. So Maya's world got smaller and smaller so that there wasn't adults there to protect her, which is something that we see happening again. And I think that professional curiosity is needed. You know, nursery should have been flagging up, you know, this child just hasn't returned for no reason. Where is she? What's going on? And that's important to do their role. It doesn't happen as much in
nurseries, does it? Because obviously schools is different, isn't it? The way that schools work, they're of a school age, so that education's important to them. Whereas nursery is a little bit less.
But there is still there is still the expectation and sort of onus put on that if a child isn't attending, you know, it's been 9 weeks and she's been sick for 9 weeks for every session for 9 weeks. It's not. You know, those little things should be pinging up, and you know, at that point there should be calls to parents to double check what's going on. Is everything okay? If you're not satisfied, you know, you can ring first contact, because all those little pieces do put a picture in place.
Definitely.
And build it up. But unfortunately, it's not always.
Yeah, I find it mind-blowing that, like, given everything that was going on, that, for example, the police didn't go.
Yeah.
I mean, we had an antisocial behaviour incident at our house. We had 3 police officers at my door.
Yeah.
Over nothing, absolutely nothing, asking about a bit of CCTV footage or anything, but you're not willing to go and investigate stuff like this.
It's a lot of missed opportunities.
I think like, you know, it's such a taboo subject. And in the whole time that this has been going on, you have 60 children killed at the hands of parents and carers a year. And you'll not hear all of them. No. Since Victoria Climbier and before, because I've done a lot of research around children that have been taken, you know, it's such a taboo subject. People don't want to talk about it. And I'm the first person to come and say something needs to be done about this. And I'm the first person to say we need a national inquiry for this. That blows my mind. That you know, at the age that I'm 48, and I've been in services since my early 20s. I was in the prison service, and then I went over to the police service, and I believed that services were making them changes. And when you hear them words, lessons learned, I believe that. I believe that was happening until it's happened to us. And I look back and it blows my mind that you've got Victoria Climbier, which was one of the biggest cases in UK history to happen. And Lord Lehman's report came out. Why at that point have they not come together and gone, we need to do more for this? And don't get me wrong, over time services have got better. We've got Sarah's and Claire's Law, and that works for what it's intended for. Sarah's Law, again, what I said before, is for sexual offending. It has a small amount in there about child abuse, but the threshold is very high for it. And it's not a given that a disclosure has to be given for that. And because that threshold's high, they potentially won't give one. So they are strengthening things around Sarah's Law. Claire's Law's the same, small synopsis in there about child abuse. Again, the threshold's too high. And it's not a given that you're going to get that disclosure. So they had that opportunity and didn't take it. And that, again, comes back to one of those missed opportunities. Dana went to the doctors and the doctor didn't have that professional curiosity to say, this girl's coming in with a low mood, who's she got at home? She's got a young person at home. Who else is in that young person's life? And that wasn't asked. And then that wasn't shared between other services. So, you know, there's several things that are coming out of all of these cases. Professional curiosity, gender bias, you know, not asking them questions and then sharing of information is absolutely still diabolical. You know, we're in 2026 now.
It should be easier than ever.
It should be easy as ever to have like one system or like, all right, we've got this person that's moved from Sunderland. In this person's life, they've taken a little girl from Concert to Peterlee, Durham area still, but he's from Sunderland. Why is the council not speaking to services about this that's going on? You know, there's drug dealers after him and stuff. A 2-year-old can't save themselves from a drug dealer.
Shouldn't be in that environment.
You know, and should not be in that environment.
No. And it happens, I think, with safeguarding, or anyone's done any safeguarding training or anything like that, they always talk about it as being like a jigsaw. You each have a piece of information that in isolation might be a bit, but it's maybe not massively concerning. If there was one system that amalgamated everything for everybody, all of those jigsaw pieces would be there on a screen to see straight away, and it gives you that full picture, because unfortunately the way services work at the minute, they all have their own systems that the others don't have access to. So it's not until something like this happens that everybody then can put all their pieces together, and it does create this picture where you sort of look at it and think, how was this missed? How did we not see this?
But it's the same in every case.
And it's repeated, It's
repeated in
the
every
same
case.
with the professional curiosity. You know, look at baby P. His mum put chocolate on his face to hide marks and things like that. And the social worker just accepted he had a chocolatey face instead of saying, well, let's clean him up. Because to me, you know, I've worked in childcare since I left school, working in nurseries. I worked with social services and now work in a school. That would be a concern to me. Why have you come to a meeting and not wiped your child's face? So again, that professional curiosity of just saying, well, let's clean you up and let's have a look and get you out of that buggy and see what you're doing. It's missed again. And it's unfortunately something that in every serious case review is brought to the forefront. It's information sharing and it's lack of professional curiosity, and those same themes run through every single case. Whether it's those high profile ones that we see that hit the news in the media, or whether it's another one of those 60 children that, you know, people in the local area might know about, but it's not publicised and it just goes under the radar. If you look into those cases, it's those themes again that go through.
And that's why I'm saying you want that national inquiry, because all these children have to be put together. And I liken it to, if you look at the post office scandal, you had all of them victims in loads of different areas in the UK, didn't you? And you had that one person that came together and gone, hold on, there's loads of different victims here. We'll put them together, and they came together and they were like, blew everyone's mind, didn't they? Because they were like,
it was also obvious.
You're in the wrong.
Yeah.
And look, we've got some amazing people that work in services. We have, you know, some great teachers, nursery workers, social workers. We've got some great police officers, you know, all the services. We've got some great people that work, you know, and do some good work and really care about looking after children or looking after your most vulnerable people in society, and children are some of your most vulnerable people in society. But unfortunately, the system doesn't allow sometimes for them to continue that good work, such as information sharing.
I think if you talk to anybody who works in those sorts of lines of work, the first thing is the frustration at how handcuffed they always are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they think or feel or want to do. The
red
opportunity,
tape,
the opportunity isn't there to actually to do that, which is the main problem.
And then you have to have families that have gone through such a traumatic experience, because this is not easy to do this. It's not easy to talk about it constantly. You know, the work that goes behind the scenes for this, is we work full time, but the work that goes behind it, sometimes that can be up at 3 o'clock in the morning typing things up,
and all the
researching
research
things,
that you've done.
you know, and having to go to meetings, having to speak to people, and it's important to do them things, and that's why we do it. But we've still got that trauma. We're still going through it. It's like I said before, it's our birthday today. So, you know, it should be a day of happiness. It should be a day of running around trying to find the party stuff. And, you know, is the sandwiches right? And she's probably pinching the sandwiches off the table. But, you know, it's not easy doing all this all the time. And families have to campaign to do this and change our archaic laws and put certain laws in. And, you know, people that do campaign that I've met over time and had the privilege to meet these people, you know, don't have a background in law or policing that, you know, that will have that knowledge. So they're, you know, going in blind essentially. At least I've got a little bit experience in it. And we're, people like us are having a campaign. And it's crazy, isn't it, to think that we have to do that.
Essentially use the victims as well. But you're not getting the opportunity to be that because you're having to then do all this other stuff to try to make the difference.
Oh, definitely. And it's not always met with positivity.
You
know, which
It
sometimes
blows my mind, I think.
Like, and it comes, the negativity generally comes from senior leaders, people that are in rank of like, you know, that can make that change, and they're very nonchalant about it to you, and you're like, you're not looking at us as a victim of this, you know, child, this beautiful child that was taken in such an horrific way, and she was taken in a horrific way. You know, that abuse is very, that word can be used to be such a big thing. So abuse is one word that actually goes into a lot. You know, he hit her that hard that he'd split her spleen so deeply that that would have never have been recognised. It was only recognised because the pathologist had seen it. So she would have died anyway. Because even if we took her to hospital, the scans would have never found that split in that spleen. And that's the harsh reality of this. You know,
particularly having to go to court, you know, and as Maya's family to sit and listen in
3
detail.
weeks we sat and listened to that, didn't we?
You know, to what had happened and the injuries that Maya incurred as well. You know,
watched the videos that he took, the images that he took, and he's sitting laughing in the background, and you know, thinking it's a joke, and she's laughing with him because she actually attended court with him before she was arrested. You
know, and the trauma that leaves, and
it's awful.
You know, with you and Rachel, who's obviously not here today, and the rest of the family is awful, and to be further sort of knocked down by people's negative response to something that it's not just about Maya. You know, this is trying to find some positive out of such a tragic situation, but it's to protect other children. Nothing can be done for Maya now, unfortunately. You know, nothing will bring her back.
Thousands of children going through it, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's what it's about. And I think even just to have empathy, to just be kind.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be, if you don't agree with something, you can
just walk
you
away.
can scroll past. You don't have to engage.
If you don't want to hear about it,
well,
you know, just say to us, I want to understand it, but I don't want to hear the bad stuff. Please don't tell us. We'll just go, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah. And if you don't want to hear anything about it, just walk past it.
But I think the thing is, I mean, because it's so uncomfortable, this is what leads to people turning away from it in the first place. It's why it's so important to face these things head on. And to actually, like, it's not a nice world out there.
No, it's not.
It's like you kind of need to accept that in order for change to happen.
But if we can talk about it,
well, this is the thing.
You know, hopefully other people can see that we're talking about it and that we're being strong about it. You know, for however long we're doing a video for, or a TV thing, or, you know, just a 30-second clip on Instagram or whatever. You know, if they can see we can talk about it, hopefully then. And do you know what? Since we've done this, how many people have come to us? So many people are now asking us them questions. I've got this going on in my life. What do I do? I've got this going on in my life. I want to give you my story so you can use my story. So many people. And the biggest thing for me, for this right now is the noise is there.
Yeah.
And the people that now we've affected to make change in their life, even if it was just one person, we're winning life
which
with
makes
that.
it all worth
Because it does make it all
Yeah.
worth it, because we've protected that one person and they've gone, do you know what, that rings true to my life. I'm actually going to come out of this. And whether we've saved a child's life, whether we've saved a man or woman's life because they've got out of a domestic abusive relationship. And I just want to make it clear, she wasn't in a domestic abusive relationship with him. There was no abuse going on between them two. Because a lot of the cases you might see that is abuse going on in the adult relationship that's going on.
And they're unable to
so
leave
they might be
because
scared
they can't
to leave.
protect
And
themselves.
that wasn't the case in Dana's case. They very much used Maya as a handbag, like I say, for their own gain in their relationship. So it's for me the biggest thing right now is we're making that noise and people are talking about it. And I was saying to Kerry on the way down, like I speak to people, professionals all the time. They say I was in a meeting the other day. They brought Maya's law up. I was in training the other day and they brought Maya's law up. And they're saying like they're bringing up that services are not very good at talking. Brilliant.
I hear it all the time. We've had conversations, Jim, where people mention it, and you talk about like, I think the thing for everyone is, like, if you're not in the, obviously you have been in that sort of world of like the system, services, childcare. You just assume this stuff exists.
Yes.
Like, when I first heard it, like, is that not already a thing? Like you just assume that. Well, that's a thing because.
And
why
so
wouldn't
many
it be?
people do when we're out campaigning or we have, stores or
It's
we're
just not in
leafleting
place. That's what
Like,
I say. Is
that's
It's just not in place.
So what do they do? And you're like,
Is this not covered by Sarah's and Claire's
You
law?
just
No?
assume, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, you don't think, well, that one stops there, that one starts there, and then there's just this
the void
nothing
in the middle,
where
yeah.
everything goes missing. So I'll go on to my next question. Obviously, we have covered a little bit in some of the stuff. So I'd like to discuss sort of the court proceedings, what happened, what came of it, and the culmination of sort of everything we discussed before.
Yeah, so it was within a year that we ended up in court, which was good because sometimes these cases can take many, many years to pull together. So essentially, when Maya was, the day she collapsed, we found out through Facebook.
I was going to say, even the information
so
sharing
in
relation to the notification of...
So she lied to services when they got there and said that, Maya didn't have a dad in her life. If they look on the systems, they probably would have found that, because he'd put a Sarah's law in. The information's there right in front of you. I know since that's changed because Rachel and I had some meetings with them people that they've then put different measures in place, which is good. So we found out through Facebook, went down to the hospital, and then on the Friday they turned the machines off, and then at this point she still wasn't arrested, and the potentially gathering evidence or whatever they were doing. So he was only arrested at this time. So then he was charged with murder, obviously, once our machines were turned off. And then so this was like the September time. I think she was arrested in the January time, wasn't she?
Yeah, because
Around
she was
about then.
obviously
So,
in the hospital with...
Well, because she'd had a
James
child
as
as well within a year of killing her first child. So she was arrested around about the January time. And then we ended up in court sort of later on in the year. So it was good that we managed to get that court in that time. And through that year it was quite difficult because she was out on remand, going in places where, we would have seen her and stuff like that, and she had no remorse of doing that. She supported him by going to court with him. In fact, when we were beside Maya's bed, she wanted to go and meet him because she believed that he was because he was, when he was first arrested, he was arrested and then released under investigation. So she wanted to go meet him while her child was lying in bed. And she did. She did go to do that. So that was a difficult time in the hospital because we had to spend time with her. And James obviously had to do that, and Rachel and I, and some of the other family obviously went down. It was quite.
I think it's a credit to James and
it was,
to
he
yourselves
held it
that
really
you
well.
all managed to hold it together knowing that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And it was instantly apparent that, Maya's injuries, she didn't just collapse. She
Well,
hadn't become unwell.
Yeah.
Clearly something quite serious, very serious, had happened to Maya.
So at what point after obviously people turning up on the day, was it actually discovered like this is beyond anything that could be?
I think it was
So-
even the 999 call,
Logically
wasn't
Yeah,
it?
so being a police officer, you know what's going on. And before I even got there, I think they said to the doctor in charge, like, our auntie's coming up, she's a police officer, she will know what's going on. I wouldn't even try and lie to her. And I took James in. James collapsed on the floor. I had to watch him. My young nephew in his early 20s watch his daughter with tubes on, and he believed she was going to sit up. Because they said to him, we've got to give her 48 hours and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He sat there and said, and you remember when she sits up, when she wakes up. And
it's that hope that
these
you
are the
cling to,
yeah,
isn't
these
it?
are the things he was saying, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew a child doesn't get airlifted for no reason at all.
I was going to say, even from the 999 call, I think he'd said that she'd fallen off a bed.
Yeah.
But from obviously what he was describing to the operator, they'd sent 2 ambulances, a helimed, helicopter, and
that was his excuse, wasn't it?
and
that she fell
police
off the bed, and
officers.
He
So
held that to the end. didn't he?
whoever, whichever operator took that call, they clearly knew that this wasn't just an incident. 2-year-olds fall off beds all the time. We've probably all done it ourselves, fell off a swing, fell off the slide, things like that. I think whichever operator took that call, they knew something else had gone on there, because they wouldn't have sent the response that they did send.
So when we were in the hospital, James he could only take so much information in, and I totally understand that. It's it's difficult enough looking at his daughter in bed. And then he left the room. I spoke to the doctor and just said, "Tell us what the injuries are," and I knew then that
it's not
she
something
wasn't
that's just
coming
gonna
from
happen.
this. She had 3 bleeds on the brain. Her eyes were detached from her head. She wasn't going to be coming back from this, as well as many other injuries. I know that's hard to listen to.
No, it's
I apologise to everybody that's listening to this.
But it's,
we explained the importance
but
before.
people need
when
to
I,
hear
when
that
I say
harsh
about
reality.
the abuse, it's like a word that is one word, but it actually means a lot of things.
And I think sometimes people need to hear that, because abuse, it's a blanket term.
Yeah.
Abuse could be anything. But I think to actually break it down, and I think for me, during the court and things, to actually have that list of injuries that Maya suffered, catastrophic injuries that she suffered
This
on that
wasn't
day.
a one-off offence thing, was it?
Yeah,
It
other
wasn't just
injuries.
he got up that day and killed her.
Yeah,
This was
been
over
going on.
like that 6
and
to
obviously
9 week period.
other bruises and other injuries that were then discovered on Maya when they started obviously examining her, bless her, did create that picture that so this had been going on at some degree for like you said, that at least that period of 6 weeks, and that's all they could really assess, because obviously your body heals. So we don't know what.
Yeah, she wasn't going to heal from it, and we knew. I knew that, and we had to. Then me and my sister had to prepare James for that. How do you do that?
Especially when
I do this, at work. I prepare people for things that are coming. We talk to them in certain ways, but how do you do it in your own family?
Yeah, it's different in a professional level, isn't it?
It's like completely different.
And you've got your own emotions to deal with.
Totally, and I had to manage that as an auntie to a young lad in his early 20s that is now watching his daughter die, essentially. So we turned the machines off on the Friday. She was then arrested in the January-ish time, I think it was. We ended up we ended up in court in the, I think it was the September time. I think it was around about then, September, October, because it was near my birthday, and it was near her anniversary. And we spent 3 weeks in court. Well, on 3 weeks. It was very emotional, very much a roller coaster, very much like you would look at the jury, and you'd think, oh my God, they're like going to side with them, and you know they're going to get off with this, and then you would hear sort of her barristers and his barristers' sins, and you're thinking, right, he's probably not going to get off with it, but how long's he going to get? So it was very much a roller coaster, and then you would have to listen to the information, you would have to listen to the, you know, him shouting on in the background, complaining about not getting fed when he was getting fed, saying he wasn't getting fed from coming out the prison in the morning, which was another thing because he got sent to a prison where our family members work, like, you know, like, and people don't realise all this goes on. You know, they think like, you know, he just goes off to a prison, but actually we've got family members that work in them prisons, you know, and how does anyone feel? And I'll say to people, like, you know, if you think this doesn't affect you, it does. Yeah. Because I'll show you the videos and the pictures of her in bed, and the amount of the community that it's affected in concert and in Peterlee, it does affect people. You know, and he's just laughing on and thinking, well, I don't get fed in the morning, but they've obviously checked that out. So that was sorted out, and then she's laughing on with him.
And again, it just speaks to a totally alien mindset to most typical normal people. You know, to think that you're there accused of these awful crimes, this awful thing.
But and he never took the stand as well, did he?
No,
so.
And your biggest complaint is that you've not had your breakfast.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it's even in a rage as horrific, you would then have some level of humanity and remorse afterwards.
Of course.
For what you've done.
Yeah.
And it's a complete absence of that just seems so...
And they said that was absent because she wasn't his blood. So they believe that, you know, if it was his blood, his child, he probably wouldn't have done it. And I thought, well, if someone's going to kill a child, they'll kill any child.
I was going to say, I don't think it matters.
If someone hits a child in that such horrendous way, you know, this is not just, you know, smacking a child to tell them off.
Beyond.
If someone's going to do that to a child, they'll do it to any child.
Of course. Just that general empathy.
Yeah.
You know, that you just...
Lack of.
You feel towards, you know, if you see a child in the park with your own children and they fall over, you think, oh, that'll hurt. And you feel for them, you know, and obviously that's completely missing. And I don't think it would matter if it was his child, if it was another, you know, a niece or nephew of his. I just don't think, you know, there's something very wrong with these people.
Yeah, and so we spent about 3 weeks at court, very up and down. We got the results that we wanted, not necessarily in full, because he got life with a minimum term of 20 years to serve. So he can go for parole at 20 years. So it doesn't stop for us. Yeah, it still continues. When he goes for that parole, we have to be part of that to make sure that we get our say, James gets his say.
And he'll still only be, and then, 50 maybe is by then?
Yeah.
40, 50.
And then she got 9 years for causing and allowing the death of a child and child neglect. He got committed with murder and child neglect. And she'll only serve 6 years of that. So I've just recently had meetings about her parole coming up. So it doesn't stop.
You think already? It's like...
it doesn't stop for us.
Already.
The trauma still goes on. Yeah. You know, she'll go for that parole. And prior to that, I put in what's called a unduly lenient sentence, which I believe that she should have got longer. Yeah. And prior to her sentencing, Paula Hudgell, who is Tony Hudgell's mum. Tony, they're from South. Tony was abused by his dad, and a lot of people will know who Tony is. He's got no legs now, and his mum campaigns for a lot of stuff, and luckily they've just got the child risk register passed, which is good for us. Amazing. And they support us massively, and we support them as well. So they've just got that over the line. But before she was sentenced, they got the sentence for causing and allowing the death of a child from 10 years to 14 years. So I believe she should have got longer, and rightly so. She should get longer.
It's no time,
so I put that in. So that came back and said, no, they've checked it with the judges and what have you, what the judge has gone with, and it's all right. Yeah. She's then counteracted that to say she wants a sentence reduced. So we're then back in court, which was down at the Old Bailey. So that was another stressful day, because potentially now we're looking at her getting less of a sentence. Luckily she didn't get that. So she still has her 9 years, but she'll serve 6 of that. So she's now got about 4 years left to serve. And then when she goes for a parole, we'll have to go through that.
Yeah.
And then if she gets a parole and gets out in them 6 years, we've got to deal with that. If she's then in till the 9 years, we've then got to deal with when she's at the 9 years. So, you know, and I have no doubt she's got the audacity to come around where the family are, because she's very much like that, isn't she? She's very manipulative as a person. So that causes us a lot of stress. You know, we don't know how things are going to go and how people are going to react. I mean, if I seen her walking with a pram down the street, I know that would stress me right out. You know, I heard that she'd had, you know, access to this baby that she'd had. I spent 3 hours onto social services and they wouldn't listen to us. They wouldn't take us serious. And I said, she's with this child right now. You're putting this child in danger. And I had to ring my auntie, who had cancer at the time, and say, please, please, please ring social services. I've been on them for 3 hours and they're not listening. I was stressed out thinking this baby's going to end up like this other child, like Maya, you know. So it doesn't stop for us. We've got to go on, and, you know, like that goes on to other family, because if I'm not here in 20, 30 years when he gets out, you know, like, who's going to do that? So that goes on to the other family, you know, my sister. If she's not here, who else takes that on board? Because I don't think James is ever going to be in a good position to do it. And who can blame him?
Oh,
No.
You know, he's someone that's lost his child.
And in the most horrific way as well. You know, I think losing a child to any illness or anything, you know, losing a child in general is a horrific tragedy. But to lose a child to murder, when you feel there was missed opportunities and it could have been prevented, things could have been so different. You know, he has to live with that, and it's a life sentence for him, for all of you. But, you know, for James, he'll never recover, I don't think, and I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would begin.
It's losing a child to murder is completely different. Like, a lot of people in this world have lost children for whatever reason that is. But to lose a child to murder is completely different, and it puts you in a dark hole that you'll never ever get out. And sometimes there's a light at the top of it, but you can never touch that light. You can just see it, and it goes away and comes back. You can never really explain how you feel about it, because it's constant. You know, I go back to what I said before, that I've got a full-time job, but then I do the campaign, but then there's still all that in the background to do, you know, and we have to make sure we protect James over that and help him and go with what his wishes are, you know, with the parole and how he wants to see things and stuff, because we have to make sure he's safe as well.
You know, and we're the face, we're the people who are out there, you know, Gemma's, you know, sort of being the catalyst for starting Maya's Law, and, you know, we're the people that you see, because James just isn't in a place to be able to do that. But James is involved, you know, everything goes past James, you know, Gemma's, you know, really good at keeping him involved and updated. It's just, you know, he's just not in a space where he can do this and talk about it. You know, it's emotional for Gemma, it's emotional for Rachel, you know, it's you know, I'm not related to Maya, and it's difficult for me to hear and to talk about.
Much, do they? And men are getting better at talking, and there is an improvement, but men are still like, you know, don't talk as much. And you know, I was saying to you before, wasn't I, about, you know, I go to the gym because I just want to move. People go to the gym because they want to get big or they want to lose weight or something like that. I go for my mental health and to move. You know, James is a man who, like, is very much like, I don't want to talk about it. He won't seek that help yet. He might do in the future. I don't know. And
well,
things are getting better. Boys are getting better at talking to each other.
But, you know, James
and their emotions and showing their emotions.
Was young when this happened as well. So, you know, his friend group and his support network of, you know, your friends and things, their lived experience is just young lads in their 20s.
Yeah.
You know, they're off on lads' holidays and
course.
you're all about living for the weekend,
Going
you know,
out, yeah.
who's out and things. So to have such a traumatic thing happen at such a young age, you know, his support network of his friends and people that he's close to, they don't have any lived experience that could even relate to it. So James has become isolated in a way as well, you know, because not that anyone knows what to say, but I think when you're a little bit older, you have that maturity at least to approach
can really
it.
understand it, can they, from
No.
his perspective, unless you are a father or a mother
You know,
that's
and
gone through it.
He'll be haunted as you all are, you know, living every day. Like you say, losing a child's horrific for anybody, but to lose a child to murder and then to constantly have replaying that list of injuries she had and the list of things that happened to her, you know, in the back of your head, you know, that is the most harrowing, most awful thing, you know, that, how do you drown that voice out, you know, and I think that's something that you all struggle with, but particularly as a parent, you know, I'm a parent, I don't know how James gets up in the morning, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's such an important message though, because you never hear this. Say you never, people see the headlines and know what happens, but they don't actually see the bigger picture of what the victim's experience behind the scenes. So it is interesting to hear all of this, because it's stuff that you just wouldn't think of.
No.
Because you don't think in that way about
No,
these
people
things.
say, and I say it all the time, people say, they're like, oh, I recognise your face. And I'm like, I probably do because of this. Or they're like, oh, I seen you on telly, or I seen you this, and, you know, you're doing so well. And it's nice to hear them things, isn't it,
Yeah,
for
of
us,
course.
that, like, you know, people are seeing us
the
talking
message.
about it, and hopefully it gives them a little bit of strength to do the same. But nobody sees the background stuff. Nobody sees what goes on. You know, we attended court for 3 weeks, but then we had to go back a year later for sentencing. So she was still out a year before she got sentenced. He was obviously remanded into jail, but she was still out a year. And in our area, in the local area.
You
So
could just bump into her.
yeah, so you could bump into
The
her.
constant anxiety
Yeah.
of, or even if you just see people that, you know, have a resemblance.
And how small is it, a concert? It's
Yeah.
like everyone knows everyone. Stanley Concert, Chesley Street. So
even just knowing she's out and potentially seeing someone who had a resemblance or the same colour hair or similar build and thinking, is that her when you're in Tesco's doing your shopping or something, you know, and then for the person to turn round and it's obviously not or whatever.
You've got to think about what else happened as well. You know, you've got her stepfather who gave her an alibi, you know, that actually lied to James, and this again, it was in court. It's in the public domain. She texted her stepdad to say, can you tell James that, you know, Maya's fallen off the slide at Allensford and that's why she's got that bruise on her face. He's done that. As a grandparent, he's done that. You know, and rightly or wrongly so, he's not been arrested for that. From our point of view, that should be looked at. Her auntie, who's his sister's, who's a nurse, seen the significant bruising on the stomach, did nothing about it, said that she was going to report it after she'd buried her husband, which I get is a very traumatic time for her. But this is a 2-year-old child that, you know, couldn't protect herself. Again, it was in a public domain. It was in court. You know, people
think, oh, it won't happen to me. It's something I read in the papers.
But we see these people. we see these people. Concert's a small place.
Yeah.
You know,
I know that Rachel had seen my stepdad with that child
It does
out
make
shopping
you think, though,
and
like, everyone should probably ask more questions.
Definitely.
Because it's like,
100%.
I don't know, Rosie had a bang, I would never question it. But it's
Yeah.
like, maybe people should. Maybe everyone really should actually think a little bit more and just ask
because
that
you don't
ask
know
that
what's
extra
going on in
question.
that household with Rosie. You know, we know
Rosie's
Kerry.
my little
it's
girl,
an
for anyone who doesn't know.
We know
Just
Kerry,
like-
Rosie's spoiled, isn't she?
but
And
it's-
she's a gorgeous little girl,
Yeah, but
and
it's-
like she's very well looked after. But like, you know, as an uncle,
Maybe everyone should
like,
ask more questions.
If you are
you could
suspicious.
say, like, you know, to your sister, "Are you okay? What's going on?"
yeah,
and just
definitely.
have that little bit of curiosity. And they might not tell you straight away, or they might,
Yeah.
or they might just think, "Oh, do you know what? Like, you know," or just spend a bit more time with people.
Yeah.
Just go out and say, like, do you want to go? Do you want to take the parents to the park? Do you want to do this? Just spend that little bit more time, because it might just be that one moment that clicks, and they go,
Or you see
"Do you know,
something.
Ross, I'm having a bad time at home. and I've got no one to talk to, and she might just spill to you. Not that you will do, because
No, but it's what
the
needs
Vans
to
are looked
happen, you
after,
know,
but-
and people do think it'll never happen to me. It's not my family. That happens to other people.
Yeah.
No,
That
but it's happened to you, hasn't it? Because Rachel's one of your
Yeah.
best mates. So this affects
Yeah.
Rachel, has an effect on you because you're Kerry's brother.
Oh, of course.
And then,
Wider
like,
intimate
you know, and then
and-
friends and stuff like that. So it has a knock-on effect.
It does,
because you'll see
absolutely.
how Kerry is. You'll see what she has to go through to
Oh,
look
of
after
course.
Rachel. And then Rachel will, like, you know, because Rachel will offload off to Kerry, and then Kerry's helping us out with the campaign, so she's got to see what's going on, she's got to talk about it. That's going to be hard for Kerry as well, because she knows Maya personally as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, just spend a bit more time with people, you know.
And ask that
It's
extra
us lot that
question.
looks after each other. It takes,
Yeah.
you know, it does take a village to raise a child, doesn't it?
In coaching, I always use like either three whys or 5 whys.
Yeah,
So don't just ask a question once.
yeah,
If someone says why,
yeah,
why? Because it takes that extra layer to find out
yeah,
way to get
Yeah.
the real answer. Because
Yeah.
people mask it. They just go, it's fine.
yeah, that's a
but
good
are you
way to
really
do it.
fine? Yeah, are you really? And it's trying to get people to actually talk and
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just dig that little bit deeper.
It's that British upper lip, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Like, we're like,
we're
oh
all-
yeah, we're all okay.
Stoic.
Yeah,
Um,
and we
but-
need to have that
Yeah.
curiosity, you know,
Yeah.
and to act on, like you say, you know, Dana's family, you know, it's in the court documents, you know, covered up for her, made excuses, things like that. And obviously, as you alluded to earlier, Damon's stepdad saw Maya on that day, and he, you know, in court had said our behaviour was strange. She was really
Yeah.
scared of him, yeah. But
But he never
But he
thought
didn't.
she
Never
would.
thought
He
any
would have
more of
done
it.
that.
Yeah.
And obviously,
Do you know what I mean?
nobody would, but, you know, in your life, if you know, if you do visit someone and they've
Yeah.
got their little one and things just seem a little bit, you know, maybe it's push, well, I'll just stay, I'll have another coffee, you know, and do that little extra just, you know, because you can always, everything else can be undone. If you ask somebody a question, you know, and how did that bruise is in a funny place, really, you can always apologise, you can always come back from those conversations, but you know, no children have ever died from someone asking too many
Yeah.
questions or from somebody prying a little bit further, but children die from people turning a blind eye and people
Yeah.
not delving that little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Bad things really happen from being too cautious.
Of course.
Or
of
too
course,
curious.
Of course.
So at what point did the idea for Maya's Law sort of come in, and did you think, right, this is something we want to push for, and also what are the specific gaps that it's designed to cover?
So I've always had something in the back of my mind where I think there's something not right with, like, you know, some of the safeguarding stuff.
I think most
But
people
then I
that have
believed-
experience
yeah,
of working
yeah,
with
but
any
I
sort
believe
of
that them lessons
safeguarding.
were being learned, being in them sort of services. You see that, you hear it on the news, don't you? You say lessons have been learned. We know that the IOPC does report, the Independent of Police Commissions, you know, does reports and looks into it, and they go, right, well, we're going to lessons learned, but them lessons learned are not shared enough. So around about Maya's death, there were several of the deaths as well with children. We had a little boy a couple of months after Maya's death that was taken in Eschwinen.
Was that 6 and 18 months or something?
And then Charlie Roberts, and there was a couple of other children as well. So in Durham, in County Durham, the council and the police will do their work around that.
Yeah.
But where's that shared? It's not shared enough around
Right.
around
Yeah.
the country. And I sat next to Maya's bed for 3 days. And I wasn't well myself. I'd nearly lost my life 2 months prior to Maya. But I had to be there for James. And the moment they turned the machines off and I sat next to her, I was in the room on my own. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I wasn't there when they turned the machines off. I'd popped home to get some rest, and the nurse had rang us. Well, James had rang us and handed the phone to the nurse and said, we're going to turn the machines off. James wants to know if you want to be here. Can you hurry up? And I made the decision there and then to say, because I was driving there anyway, and I said, no, I don't want to be there. I said, she's gone through enough pain, turn them off, and I'll get there and I'll see you when I'm there. And I sat next to her bed, and I've got a photograph of holding her foot because she was very stressed. Even though she was in a coma, you couldn't cuddle her, you couldn't touch her because it was stressing her body out more. So I held her foot whilst we were there, and sometimes I would touch her hand a little bit, but touching her was causing her body more stress. So I sat next to her, and I was the only person that was allowed to be on my own with her because obviously my job, and I guess they just trusted me. Not that they didn't trust any other family members of ours, it was just in the circumstances she wasn't allowed to be in the room on her own. And the nurse, I can remember it, like, lovely nurse looked at me, and I think she just knew I needed that moment. And I sat with her, and I held her, and I said, I'll never ever let your I'm going to cry.
I
know. I'll never ever let your name go in vain.
And I think that's why it's so important, obviously, you know, and it's really shows with Gemma and with Rachel, you know, that this it's so important to them to keep Maya's name alive and our memory going, but
thank you.
To make sure that no one else has to go through this, because the pain that they are going through, and obviously particularly at the time, you know, when they lost Maya and things like that, it was so harrowing, you know, and I think that Gemma knew that more had to be done to protect anybody else from going through what you were going through.
What I did. I knew that I could never let this go. At that point, I knew that I was never going to let a name be words on a piece of paper, statistics in the rest of the children, like Victoria Columbier, Baby P, Sarah Sharif, many, many more, Star Hobson. And some of these families are families that I'm in contact with, Star Hobson's family, Danielle Pelker's family, Arthur Hughes' family, Lola James's family, Paula Hutchell's family. A lot of these families I'm in contact with now because of this. And I knew that more needed to be done. And at that moment, I knew I had to do something. Didn't know what it looked like at the moment. Other than, apologies, I didn't know what it looked like. But I knew more had to be done because the Sarah's and Claire's law wasn't fitting for what we were asking for. And I just went home, and I just literally, that's all I focused on. And I looked into it. I did all my research, and I was like, where are we going wrong here? And I was like, the Sarah's and Claire's law, that's where we're going wrong. It's fitting for the purpose of what they're for. So the work for Sarah's law works for sexual offending. So if you've got concern about a child that you believe's, you know, around sexual offenders, you would look at that and think, that's fitting for what I'm concerned about. If you had a concern about an adult in an intimate partner relationship, you would look at Claire's law and go, that's fitting for what I'm thinking. But if you looked and gone, what's going to help me because I've got concern about that child, there's nothing really there. But I'll ring services, exactly what James did. So the social services told them it wasn't up to them to deal with it. He's then gone to the police because they've told him to go to the police. And as a young lad, he believed that he was doing the right thing at that point. And he's gone, I'm going to get help here because these are professionals that are going to help me. And we didn't get that help. Not in the right way. Nothing, it wasn't acted upon. So I knew, right, we need something in the middle here. We've got Sarah's law, we've got the Claire's law, we need the Maya's law. There's three things there in abuse that are hit. You've got your sexual abuse, your adult abuse and your child abuse. And that is a clear line to show, right, I've got a concern for this child. That's a Maya's law, that's in place. Services have to act. So we're not saying you just give them a phone call and do...
And then have to follow
they have to follow that up. So they have to go out physically see
Yeah.
the child, and it could be just that safeguarding report that you write in that shares with other services, and they have teachers have a safeguarding report, social services have on the same child, and they're like, hold on, this links up with this, and I didn't get that information, but you've got that information. So we're asking them to act rather than just make that phone call. And again, when I said before, the threshold's so high for child abuse and child neglect that they don't have to necessarily give that disclosure. So we're saying you have to act on this and do something about it. And then invoke family court if they need to. We're giving services more power to be able to do these things. And also not just the power, but actually holding them to account for not acting.
Yeah.
And I think that's massively important. Because in our case, there was gender bias. They believed the mum over the dad. And males and fathers have just as much right for that child than the mother does. And especially, like in our case, James had Maya mainly and mostly had Maya.
Yeah.
So his voice should have been much stronger than Dana's. But people believe that mothers are always right.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things,
isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you go back in the history of things and you look at like other cases where the parents have been, the mothers have been involved in that. Star Hobson was two females, that was involved in that. Are you going to say that they're right in, being a right parent?
Yeah.
If you've got a concern about an adult, male, female, whatever, it should be looked into,
I think,
regardless of your sex or gender.
So at that point, I knew that something to be done, and that's where I came up with the Myers Law. And I ran with it for quite some time before I even really spoke to my sister about
Put
it.
out there.
And then I knew I wasn't getting anywhere. I was getting lip service. I was getting doors shut on us. I was getting doors opened, but then it was just open.
Yeah.
There was nothing behind it. There was words, but there was nothing behind it. And I was like, right, okay, we need to get this in the public domain now, because it's the public that's going to make this work, not me.
I think especially when you've had, like you spoke about earlier, like some negative responses as well. And I think when you're just on your own and you're starting out and you've just got an idea, and you're sort of putting the feelers out, and you're met with that negativity,
You're told that we don't need another name because people are going to get confused about names. We've got Sarah's Law, Claire's Law, ask Angela. We don't need another name. Well, don't tell me that if that happens to your child.
Yeah.
I
think the thing with those names is the simplicity of naming it is the reason that people remember and know these things exist.
Totally.
Because nobody remembers a big title on a piece of legislation.
No.
Like,
Yeah,
everybody
wrong
knows
number.
what Sarah's Law, Claire's Law is, because they're so simple. Everyone knows Ask Andrews because it's something that sticks in your brain because they've simplified it, and that's what people need.
Totally. And like most people now knows what Myers Law is, knows who Myers Law is. Maya is,
particularly in the local area, isn't it?
The week that we got the signatures, literally that whole week was like Maya. That's all it was. And everybody was saying to us, all I can see on my social media is Myers Law. And I'm like, mint. Because that's what I wanted. And that last week, I said we need to turn the social media into Myers Law, and that's what happened. So I think that was the moment I just said something needs done, and I guess I'm the person to do it. And then I spoke to my sister, and she didn't even falter on it. She didn't even she didn't even blink. She was just like, what do you need? And I told her everything, and then, she's obviously blurted it to Kerry. Kerry's gone, what do you need?
Yeah.
And hats off to them both, because I literally just go, I need this, can you do it? And they're like, I'll do it. And now they've got official titles, so they have to do it.
We're official now.
So
people kept asking us to introduce ourselves and what we did, and we were like, I just come along and help.
And it wasn't just for Maya and all the other children, but for James as well. I knew that I didn't ever want James to look 10 years ahead and go, what have we done for Maya? What's happened? He's asking the questions where we were when she first died now. you know, he's gone through his emotions and what have you, and he's in a completely different place to us. So he asks questions that we were asking 3 years ago. You know, so I don't want him to look back and go, what have we done for Maya? We've just let her die. And then there's nothing. So I've gone, this is what we've done. And when you're ready, and if you're ever ready, and if you're not, that's okay. You can have as much as to do with this as you want to be. You can be out there as much as you want to be, or you can sit in the background. It's entirely up to you. But I tell you what, her name will never go down in just a piece of paper. On a name on a piece of paper, another statistic, because that's what's happening with these children. They're becoming words on a piece of paper and a statistic, and they're not. The children that were loved and cared for, that have birthdays, that have had loving, caring families, that want to just protect them and just have a normal family life with them, taking them to the park, making birthday parties, you know, bathing them, but putting the duckies in the bath and, you know, and feeding them and seeing how they grow up and seeing what friends they make, how they get through school. These are children that went through this, you know, and that
Their
families wanted
stolen,
to go through this,
futures stolen,
Like you say, it's so easy to just detach it yourself from it,
Totally.
in the sense of, like, that would never happen to me, but it could. 'Cause you
Totally.
probably would.
Yeah,
10
you
years
never-
ago, you was never happened to us. Like,
Totally.
you never think it would be you.
And I think that's a big thing as well, me and obviously Kerry and Rachel being professionals. It can happen. We don't have an invisible cloak on us that protects us. This has happened to us, and it can happen to anybody, because the world can be a nice place, but it can be very dark as well. And it takes that one person to come into it. And control and coercive behaviour is a massive thing at the minute. Domestic abuse is a massive thing, but abuse on children is hundreds of thousands a year getting abused. So this can happen. And it could be your mate, it could be your colleague, it could be someone in the street that you say good morning to when you put your bins out. It could be happening in their household, and you just don't know about it until this happens.
And I think we all want to live in a world where if you have concerns, you feel like you can ring somewhere up and something's going to actually happen.
Yeah, totally.
Like, that doesn't seem an unreasonable request, because, like I say, most people, I think, prior to sort of listening to what's happened, would just assume that was the way things were.
Yes.
Or you just ring up and then they just go and deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
when
not
we
the
say, like,
situation.
James rang social services and they told them that, like, you know, it's got nothing to do with us, you need to phone the police. People go, what? They did what? They're like, isn't social services supposed to be there to do that? And you're like, well, you would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then you'll say, well, the police didn't actually physically see Maya. People still believe that happened. No, nobody
Because if they had
physically
gone
seen
to the
that.
house, they would have seen that
They
his
might have
clothes were
seen.
in the wardrobe, and there was, you know,
Well, they would have
clearly.
seen him there because it showed afterwards at court that he never left the house. The camera's in the street. So, yeah.
So obviously the campaign has been a bit of a roller coaster.
It has.
But culminated in obviously getting the 100,000 milestone, which was massive.
Yeah.
Talk us through a little bit of that.
So we pushed and pushed, didn't we?
We did, and we did get really far. Did we get about
we had
5,000 on our
We had
own?
events, we had flyers out, we
Yeah,
had
we've done bagpacking,
videos,
supermarkets,
posts, backpacking.
all sorts of things, and we got to 5,000 or so, you know, and then it did
I
take
think
it slowed,
slowed
didn't
about
it?
6,000 and something, and then we jumped to about, I think it was around about 15,000. Slowed again.
Yeah.
And then we jumped a little bit, and then my friend had messaged Richie Howie, who I didn't actually know at the time, and she rang us and she said, I was actually having a meeting with Star Hobson's family. I was sitting having a coffee with them, and Star Hobson's another little child that was taken. She was younger than Maya, actually, taken at the hands of her mother's new partner. Very similar circumstances to Maya as well. Moved to a different area, secluded from family, and she's took Star's life. So I was actually sitting having a coffee with them, and my friend rang us and went, "Do you know Richie Howie?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Well, I've messaged him and asked him. He's an influencer. He does like gym stuff." And she like talked us through it a little bit. And I was like, "All right." And I just took it as like very much like we've had influencers do this for us. You know, we had Charlie.
There's a lot of
Born.
videos on
She does
YouTube
like crime
and things.
videos, and we got about 6,000 signatures from her, and probably still went over. You know, and I just thought, right, okay, it's another influencer. You know, they'll put a video out, and you know,
And a lot of
we'll
us
get a few
A
thousand.
lot of us were messaging, you know, like celebrities or TV personalities or
we
influencers.
even had food bloggers and
You know,
stuff
from the
doing
local area, we're all messaging them saying, "Oh, you know, if you could just give us some support, give us a mention."
So look, this went on time and time again, didn't it? So people
lot of
who
people ignored
messaged,
us
people
as well.
put stories out, celebrities
Yeah.
put stories out and whatever. We had a lot of backing from the MPs who put stories out. We had backing off the mayor, you know, and some celebrities. So it wasn't something that wasn't already done. And she said, "Oh, well, he's going to put a post out," and that was it. It just blew up, and everybody started signing it. And it just went up, and I thought, it's tilting off again, it's slowing down again, but then all of a sudden it just went up again. And I think I was the only person at this point that was invested in this that wasn't watching the numbers. I couldn't watch them.
We were checking them every hour, and they were
Well,
going
yeah.
up and they were going off.
We're like, what the numbers, what the numbers. Well,
We did a
I had,
radio show the other week, and he said, "I was just watching it go up and go up and go
I
up."
had like people screenshotting the numbers to us, sending us the numbers, and I'm like, stop doing that, I don't want to know the numbers. And in my head, I'd just gone, whatever numbers we get on the 5th is, I'll deal with it. If that's over, brilliant. If it's not, I'll just deal with it. I even planned.
You were ready to go again?
I was ready to go again with another petition, with the wording and everything. And I think I literally was the only person that wasn't watching it.
You just couldn't watch it. It was too much.
And then my sister was on the phone to us, and she was like, "Gemma, can you come up to work in the morning? If we don't get the 100,000 before work, can you come up to my work? Because I need to be with you when we get the 100,000." So I wakes up in the morning, and there was probably around about 400-ish left to get to the 100,000. So I was like, right, I'll get up because Rachel wants us to go to our work. I don't think we're going to get there before 9 o'clock. Gets in the shower. My sister's like, "What are you doing? Get up here now." And I was like, "What do you mean, get up here now? I'm in the shower." She was like, "What are you doing in the shower? Get up to mine. I'm keeping the kids off until we get to the 100,000. I was like, "Rachel, we're like got 400 and something like." She was like, "No, Gemma, we haven't got 400 and something left." I was like, looked at her, I was like, "Oh, we've still got a couple of hundred left. We're not going to get there till before 9 o'clock." So then a couple of minutes later, she's like, "What are you doing now?" And like, because I live literally.
Rachel is the biggest, like, glass half full. Like, we're going to get there. Optimist, like, shoot, it was going to happen for Rachel. Where Gemma was like, "No, I'm just going to.
We'll deal with whatever." And then anyway, I was like, "I'm drying my hair." She was like, "What do you mean you're drying your hair? Like, can you just get up here?" So she's like stressing out at me. So I'm like, right, okay. So pick the dogs up, threw them in the car, and they're like looking at me and sort of say like, "What's going on, ma'am? Like, we're not normally out this early." Went up to my sister's, and I literally hit the doorstep, and we got the 100,000 as I hit the doorstep. And I went to do a live, and the live cut off, so we had to start that again. But it was amazing. It was just such a surreal moment. And to be with my sister, my brother-in-law, and the two kids was just perfect. To get that 100,000 a week before we were due to be ended was just
It was
amazing.
really, really showed like how the community had come together. I know that me and
everyone was like
me and
crying
Rachel
and
work in the same
happy and-
school.
Yeah.
And our whole school, everyone was. It was
Even
on
the
the
kids
big
were
board on the
invested,
screen,
weren't they?
projected, watching the numbers tick, and the children were like, "It's nearly then."
Yeah.
You know, and everybody was so
We had videos
happy.
from like friends that have got kids
Everybody
that were
was
watching
crying,
it. And, everybody was just so invested at that time, and you know, we did
Just
the
lovely
live
to
and loads
see.
of people come onto it as well. So Richie Howie did a blinder for us, and he was such a nice
He did. He
bloke.
pushed it over the line,
He
definitely.
invited us down to meet him, which
Yeah.
was nice of him to do, because he's a busy man.
Oh, yeah.
As you know,
Yeah.
to been having gyms yourselves, he's a busy man, and like for him to take his time out to spend that time with
Oh,
us,
definitely.
was amazing. That he did that for
And
us.
I suppose heading into that sort of final week, being that far away, it probably never in your wildest dreams did you think that something was going to sort of come like getting struck like lightning.
No.
That was going to then.
I think, like for me,
I was sort
I
of
had
off.
like
tense, and I was thinking, oh, they're not going to do it, and I was sort of trying to think, like, how am I going to like help Rachel or support Rachel?
I think everyone was doing that.
If we don't get there, they're going to be devastated, and you know, I'll be devastated.
I think for
but
me, I was like, when people have got petitions, they're either blow up at the beginning or the blow up at the end, and I was like, all I need is one thing to happen for us. And I think that one thing was Richie, how he knew what he was doing with how to get that out
definitely.
there.
Yeah,
You
he
need that
did.
knowledge though.
Of course, but we needed them to apply it.
we need the numbers
So
as
whilst
well.
we had like influencers and that putting things out, they didn't really apply it. He applied it. And that's really what helped us. I'm still in touch with him now. I'll be forever grateful for him, because it's a milestone that we've got over now. We don't have to go back there. Regardless of what comes out, we've got that debate now. That's been set in stone. We haven't got a date for it yet, but they've definitely said we've got a debate. There's a couple before us, so we'll go down for that debate and see what happens. But we don't have to go back to them signatures. It's done.
I think that's the cruel thing, is like it just resets, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It just goes
back to
it's like,
zero.
Yeah.
It's quite cruel in the way of it's
And
like.
loads of people don't realise that. So when people are looking at petitions, people really need to be aware that them petitions only last for 6 months. They've got an end date, and then it goes back to zero. And you have to, it's not just that it goes back to zero and goes out again. You have to go through the whole process of writing that out again, sending it off to the committee. They've got to then say yes or no, that they're going to go through with it again. So it's a massive thing to like go back to that zero, because you've still got a lot of work to do in the background, and you start at zero, you go again. And then whatever signatures have you got, you could have had 80,000, they've gone. So,
It's hard, obviously, for you as well to think that if you lost that, it feels like so much of the work would have gone.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
But
and I think-
thankfully,
I
don't
know.
have to go back.
I think a lot of work has gone into it and still going into
Yeah.
it, because now obviously the campaign has changed, but the amount of like effort that nobody's seen, like getting up in the morning, going to an event, you know, trying to put a little bit back into the community as well, for children, to make sure that, you know, families have got enough. So we help the baby bank, we'll help schools where the, you know, not have got coats for kids or clothes for kids, and you know, we try and put back in the community so people don't see all that goes on in the background. So to have to reset that and start that again and do them events under that, we need the 100,000 signatures. Would have been difficult. We would have done it, but it would have been difficult to go back to that zero. We would have, as we always do, would have picked ourselves up to start again. But the fact that we now have changed our campaign to now it's about following us, supporting us, because the voices of the community in the whole of the UK, not just Concert, is what's going to get this through. We might be doing all this, but it's actually their voices that'll push this through.
And it's shown as well, you know, like ministers now know, you know, there's a video on all of our socials and everything, you know, of Keir Starmer talking about Maya's Law, and other MPs, you know, they all know Maya's Law. Obviously, having that debate in Parliament is just going to spread that even further, and it's so important. Like I say, this is not party political specific. You know, protecting children, you know, it should be on everyone's manifesto. It should be for every party. You know, it's not a divisive topic. It's protecting children. So thankfully all, and rightly so, all of our MPs have come together and all agreed that it needs to happen.
Yeah, and we've got councillors that are doing the same. So we've had like, you know, that might be going on the debate, but actually the local council's also doing something. So we've had, which was another milestone for us, we had a motion in council, and every single councillor came together for one reason, and that was Myers Law. Nice. The only thing they'll agree on.
From all the parties.
It does take some doing, and I'm very proud that we've managed to do that. And we can say, you know, and it'll be something that'll be in the history books that, you know, Myers Law got Durham County councillors to agree on one thing.
It was a unanimous decision.
Yeah, like I watched it, and it was quite emotional to watch, because the councillors that were in there were getting emotional as well. Kathy Hunt's got that. She's the portfolio holder for the motion. She works in reform, so they're going to bring it into Durham County Council anyway. Excellent. I've got a meeting next week with the local children's safeguarding boards, so hopefully that'll push forward again. That's Amanda Hopgood. She's sorted that out for us. So, you know, there's still other work going on. So much going on.
Gemma's doing everything.
It was never the end, though, was it?
No,
petition,
it's not.
People need to realise
it.
It wasn't like, right, we get the petition and then that's it.
It's not. And a lot of, when I say I'm in touch with other families, Paula Hudshell has just got, like I said earlier, she's got the child risk register passed now. We support that massively, and we'll always back Paula on that. She's then said, you know, I spoke to her the other day, and she's fully backs us anyway, because they've got that over the thing. She's then going to focus on this, and we'll do the same. You know, we support Holly's Hope. You know, a lot of people know Holly from Hexham, that was taken by her ex-partner. She was only 15 years old. We support them. We support other campaigns that are going on. You know, so it's never going to end. There's always going to be something, because safeguarding changes. You know, there's difference around years and years ago. It would be, man goes to work, he comes home on a weekend, has a skinful, beats his wife up. And that's how the police or services would be dealing with domestic abuse. Now it's abuse in children, it's abuse male to male, female to female. You know, it's a massive change, control coercive behaviour. There's loads of different things going on around it, so there'll be a constant change anyway in safeguarding. And as we know, like, times are changing. We've got AI in now that then, you know, changes abuse massively. You've got child sexual exploitation, you've got child exploitation. You know, there's bigger things than us as well. This one thing, and this is just one step in safeguarding, and why shouldn't everybody support that?
Well,
if we can close gaps, dangerous gaps in safeguarding, why shouldn't people listen to us? You know, and they've got the child wellbeing bill, but that's about education. You know, and it doesn't fulfil everything that we're asking for. And Josh McAllister, in our 30-minute debate that we had at Westminster, said himself, it covers some but not all of what we're asking for. And he said it's not needed now. When is it needed? When is Myers Law needed? How many more children
Why not
need
put
to
it
be
in
killed?
place?
Yeah.
And then if it's ever
well, you
needed,
can never have too much protection.
You're there, that's it.
You know what I mean?
You know, we have meetings with ministers. I've met with Bridget Phillipson, the Home Office, a guy called Christopher. They've asked us to work with them on Sarah's Law and Claire's Law that they're trying to strengthen. We know Claire's daughter is campaigning again because she's seen that Claire's Law is not fulfilling what they want it to fulfill. So this doesn't stop for campaigners, not just us, but other families as well. So we'll continue to support them with the families as well as probably once you know we get this over the line. And however long that takes, it's took Paula Hudgell 8 years, it's took Claire Thrussell 10 years. You know, it's took many other people years and years. So we're in it for the long term. So it's safeguarding children, so it'll change constantly. There'll be new things that come out that we have to look at. So, and that's fine. We'll do that.
How can people help now? Now they can't sign the petition.
So obviously we've changed from what the petition is to now supporting us. You know, check our website out. Everything's under Myers Law. So if you go anywhere on social media or Google anything, put in Myers Law, it'll come up. So you've got Myers Law. We've got a website. You can check things out. We've got a few links on there that will take you to Sarah's and Claire's Law if you need to go to them. and it tells you a little bit about them as well. It tells you a bit about the Myers Law. We've got events that's coming up.
Coming to our events. You probably see me.
So we've got events that we need to still continue to do, but we're also trying to support the community such as the Baby Bank. So to do that, to keep this campaign going, we've still got a GoFundMe page going. And whilst it says like how much money's in there, that money goes quite quick.
Yeah.
You know, we have to buy things equipment.
Trips to London to meet with those ministers, to meet with MPs,
and it costs
like
a lot
that.
of money to get the train down to London and, you know, and fed and,
of
you
course,
know, go to meetings and stuff like that. So we still have a GoFundMe page there. So look, if people just don't have that Costa coffee, that one less Costa coffee, and put a couple of quid in. Yeah, exactly. Put a couple of quid in our thing.
But follow us, you know.
The biggest thing for us as well is to follow us,
support
us, because people's voice now is the one. They're going to get this across the line, not us. We've just done the basics of it. This is about the community's voice now, and they can be, we've got over 110,000 voices for Maya on that signatures. We now need millions that's in the UK to be a voice for every single child as well as Maya to get this across the line. So support us. If you've got a lived experience, drop us a message. We'll use your lived experience. It can be anonymous. You don't have to give names. You don't have to give places. Just give us your story. We'll take that to the Prime Minister. We've got kids involved, so we've got handprints from children. That's their signatures. That's their voice. So if you've got a school or you've got a nursery or you're working with children, get out some paints, get out a roller of thin and get handprints on. You can write the names on if you want. You can write where you're from. Just write Myers Law across it. Get the kids' handprints on. Get it over to us, because we're going to give them to Keir Starmer when he sits with us. And he will sit with us. Because if anybody's ever met me, they'll know that I've got the tenacity to keep going until they say yes. So, you know, just keep supporting us. Whether that's through the GoFundMe, sharing it, sharing our pages, supporting us. We've got TikTok, Instagram and Facebook. We do a lot more on Facebook than we do the others, but we try and keep up with it where we can.
That's because we're a bit old.
Yeah, probably. You know, we do events that you can come to. We've got a walking event coming up the 29th of March. We're going to start at Rosebery Top, and we'll put them details out on social media. We're going to do 4 walks, so it's over 2 months, every 2 weeks, and they're all in the northeast, and they go to Maya's age, so 24 miles, 2 months, every 2 weeks, because she's 2. And that's to raise money for the RVI. So initially we had the idea because we wanted to do a nice room. Now, they've got things in place where you've got to get a settee from a certain place because of hygiene, and you can't just put biscuits in because they've got to put fruit in, and there's certain things. So we've said, well, what else do you need? We want to give back to the RVI for that specific ward. We don't want it going elsewhere. And they said when Maya went, we got a baby box, this box, and in this box it has her name on the front, and it's got her handprints in, her footprints. It's got a little blanket that she was wrapped in, and it's got all the information, all the bits that was with her. Now, them boxes are expensive. They're about £100 a piece. But you can get a teddy with like the heart in, so you can hear the bairn's heart. And there's loads of things that they do. They've got a key ring. And
those little things that just mean so much.
All these key rings are like, you know, I put a little for James. He's got the, it's like a jigsaw piece. And out of the jigsaw piece is a little heart that's cut out. The heart went in her hand, and when she was buried with it, and he's got the jigsaw piece. So them things are a lot of money. So we were like, right, okay, that's important, because we got that. And that's going to be important to families, just to not have that stress of like them saying, oh, we haven't got boxes because we've run out, and we haven't got the funding to get more. We don't want another family to have to sit and go through that. So the money that we're going to raise for that is going to go to the RVI. So over that 2 months, the money that goes in on the days that we do the walks, or we might set up another GoFundMe page for it, and we'll figure it out. But if we stick it in the same GoFundMe page, the money that goes in on them days of the events will go to the RVI. But the biggest thing for us is follow us, support us, give us your lived experience, come out and talk to people, because mental health and well-being is massively important to us as well. That's another reason why we're doing the walks, get people out talking. And look, if you don't want to talk, I love talking. Kevin loves talking. Rachel loves talking.
You can just listen to me talk.
Yeah, bring your dogs, bring your kids.
But I think that's part of it, like we said, you know, about men. Men are getting better at talking, but studies have shown that men talk better if you're doing something. If you're out for a walk, if you're in the gym, men are more likely to talk because they're doing something else. You know, men are notoriously bad at sitting down at a table with a box of tissues and saying, how are you feeling? They don't want to talk like that. So getting out for a walk, you know, we'll go to Rosebery Topping and you can chat on the way and talk to other people. You don't even have to go to the top.
If you want to do
halfway,
you could
just stop halfway.
Do you know what I mean? If you're going to struggle to get up to the top, I think it's about stay at the bottom.
Come and meet us at the bottom and just have a little chat. You can give us some drinks.
Do you know what? When I looked at our board on our Facebook, we've only got 5% of males that follow us. Now, we are a voice for James, because James, as a father and as a male, had just as much voice and say as the mother. Yeah. And I know there's many men out there that I've come across them and I've spoke to them and they're like, I don't follow you, but I've been listening to it. Why aren't you following us? Because it's people like you that are going through the lived experience that we're talking about. Yeah. And you're not being heard, but you're going to court. Like, you're going through this. You know, and they're saying that we've spent thousands in court and they're just not listening to us. They're taking the mother's side on it. And like, but this is what's happened to James. Follow us, support us. Let's get this through. So, you know, men just need to support us as well. This is not about... I know there's me, Kerry and Rachel, so it's very female heavy. And if we could have James in the forefront, we would, but we've got to protect him and he's got to protect his own mental well-being. So, you know, like, it comes down to James and Maya. It doesn't come down to us three, it comes down to him. So, you know, men, like, come forward. Listen, we're not going to go out and say, oh, Joe Bloggs is following us. You know, just support us, show us your support, show that the males are on there.
But any support, donate. Any support, whether that's on the GoFundMe, we're doing some events or
we do events where you
vouchers,
can, like,
raffle prizes, you know, unwanted Christmas presents. Send them our way. You know, everyone's got a Lynx gift set somewhere that they didn't really want.
If you follow us, you'll see the events as well. So you'll see what we're coming up with. We
come
don't always just do things with kids, do we? We've got like an event, a Bongo Bingo event. So it's, you know, that'll be a great night. I'm sure you'll be there because Gary will make you come. You know, and like... It's going to be done by a drag queen called Bella Bluebell, I think it's called. It is. It'll be a great night. So, you know, we're doing things for adults as well to get them to distress and, you know, just, follow us and help us get this over the line. We're not a charity, that's the thing. So we can't just find money from everywhere. And loads of people say, oh, if you were a charity, we'd be able to fund you. I was speaking to someone yesterday and they were like, we've got a massive pot of money, but I can't give you any because you're not a charity. And I'm like, I know, but where does the campaign get their money from? Campaigns should be getting funding from local areas, such as the councils and stuff. But because I'm not a charity and I'm not likely going to be a charity because it's a campaign. James wants to do his own charity separate to that, and when he's ready to do that, he'll do that. So we haven't raised the money ourselves by doing these events, by leaving the GoFundMe page up to get people just don't have that cost of coffee and just stick that couple of quid in. Have that one less drink that day. You know, that's all we ask, and just keep helping us.
Perfect.
So, but thank you very much.
Problem. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
I enjoyed it. It's been interesting to hear all about it. Obviously, in more detail. I think that's what people find beneficial from this. It allows for longer conversations.
And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? Is like, you know, people might see a post and scroll past because it's got a little bit on, but when you hear the actual details of what's gone on, you get more invested into it. And the fact that we want other people to be involved in this, because their voice is just as strong. You know, we ask them for people that have lost children in the same circumstances to come forward and support us, because they can come to Westminster with us. Yeah. They can sit there and speak to the Prime Minister if they want with us, or they can Zoom in, or they can give us a letter with like what they want to ask the Prime Minister or what they want to ask the MPs. I'll do that for them. You know, like I said before, we've got a Star Hobson's family, we've got Arthur Hughes' family, Daniel Pelker's family, Lola James's family. They're all back us. Paula Hudgell's family, you know, they're all back us. And their voices are just as important, because we've got to put these children together.
Well, that's the thing. It's Maya's name on there, but it could be 100
children.
Totally, because if you look at every case, similar things are coming up in every case, which is why I'm asking for that national inquiry. So thank you very much for having us.
No problem. I enjoyed it.